Welcome, everybody, to episode 2 of the Red Dirt Rambler. I hope everybody has had a great week so far. It has been a busy week. It was a busy week last week. It was a busy weekend. And here we are filming this on Wednesday. And I'll tell you what, it feels like a Friday. I've had so much stuff going on. We've had so much stuff going on. And, I'm excited to get into episode 2. So, um, episode 1 was really an introduction to what the show is going to be about. It was an introduction about red dirt music. It was an introduction to cross Canadian ragweed, right here, cross Canadian ragweed. I couldn't have been more happier to see them for the second year in a row. Exactly 365 days apart, we saw them, and man, this concert series has really blown my mind. It's been crazy. You know, last year, my friend Kayla, she told me, or she asked me, she goes, so was the concert this year better than last year? And I mean, yes and no. It was better last year, I think, just because it was their first show together. First hour and 45 minutes together on stage last year together, and you just can't beat that. You just can't beat that. There's no way in hell that you're going to beat that. So of course last year's was 10 times better. This year, I mean, still absolutely insane. There was so much energy with everybody involved at the show. It was nuts. So this year they had the Great Divide, the Great Divide opening up. They had Shane Smith and the Saints. They had Wyatt Flores. I'll talk about Wyatt Flores here pretty soon. And then after that, it was the Turnpike Troubadours and then Cross Canadian Ragweed. Ragweed was on stage. I shit you not. I would say a grand total of 2 hours and 10 minutes. They were on stage just rocking it out. It was awesome. Of course, we heard all the familiar tunes. 17, Alabama, Sick and Tired, Constantly. We heard the regulars, but we also heard some songs that we haven't heard live in a long time. Lighthouse Keeper. That was a good tune to listen to. Of course they played Carney Man. Of course they played Boys from Oklahoma. It's the Boys from Oklahoma show in Stillwater, Oklahoma. All in all, great concert. And right at the end of the show, Ragweed and Turnpike and everybody came out on stage, and they did a tribute song to Charlie Robison. God bless Charlie Robison. We miss Charlie Robison so much. Charlie Robison, and honestly, right now I don't know the exact year that he passed away, but so I think it was maybe like 7 years ago. He ended up retiring for a little bit. I think he had surgery on his vocal cords, and it really put him under, so he couldn't really do many concerts anymore. But then he did end up passing away, and it was somewhere along the lines of 3 to 4 years ago that he passed away. And I'll tell you what, this guy was a red dirt Texas country legend. Charlie Robison was, and I'm sure one of my episodes will dive deep into Charlie Robison, but his storytelling, not only his storytelling in his music, but the storytelling that he does just on stage at his live show, just talking about this and that, unbeatable, absolutely unbeatable. So it was awesome to have Ragweed and everybody up on stage doing a tribute song, playing a Charlie Robison song, and it was the song was called "My Hometown" by Charlie Robison. It was so cool to see that, and to see everybody in the crowd just going absolutely insane because we're honoring Mr. Charlie Robison. So yeah, let's get into it. Let's talk about other acts from the concert. The Great Divide. You can never go wrong with the Great Divide. Always a solid show. Mike McClure is such an amazing lyricist. Just the things that he thinks about when he's writing music is bar none one of the best songwriters um, of our generation. 100%. I'm I always talk about Chris Knight being an amazing songwriter and storyteller in his songs. I put, and I consider Chris Knight to be top dog. His storytelling, you can't beat it when it comes to storytelling and songs. Writing story songs. But number two on the list is Mike McClure. I don't know. I think Mike McClure has just experienced so much in his life that he's able to just pull things out of his mind and just put it on paper. It's crazy. So anyway, The Great Divide, absolutely awesome. They kicked the show off. They kicked ass. It was awesome. And then we had Shane Smith and the Saints come on, and I'll tell you, like I've listened to a lot of Shane Smith and the Saints. I haven't got too big into their music, but big enough to understand that they know what they're doing in this scene. I have bought a couple of their albums and I've loved it. There's been a lot of times where I've played it, driving down the road and they're playing constantly. It's great. I love Shane Smith and the Saints. They're going to be touring for a long time. They're going to be out on the road a long time. They're going to be making music for a long time. Everybody loved it. It was great. But Wyatt Flores, guys, I have been sleeping on Wyatt Flores. I've heard a couple of his songs here and there, but I never got fully into Wyatt Flores until I saw him live. It was such a life-changing experience. Gosh, he seriously had, like, he's 24 years old and he has red dirt running through his veins. He is hardcore red dirt, loves the music scene, and he doesn't want anything different. He wants the red dirt scene to come alive. You know what I mean? And he's such a young artist, and what makes it special is Wyatt Flores grew up in Stillwater, Oklahoma. So he's playing in his hometown at Boone Pickens Stadium. That's crazy. That's crazy. And I wrote down a script that I went back through my videos from the concert and I wrote down something that he said. So he was getting ready to play a song and he wanted to just kind of talk to the crowd for a little bit. And I'm gonna tell you word for word what he said. And I'll tell you what, this teared me up listening to it, and on stage, this teared Wyatt Flores up. It was insane. So I'm gonna go ahead and get into it. I'll read it to you here. Wyatt Flores, 24 years old, Stillwater, Oklahoma, playing a huge show at Boone Pickens Stadium. This is what he says. Everyone that's playing on this stage tonight is one of my heroes today. And I've been proud. I've been proud to be a red dirt artist. And more than anything, growing up, I heard all the stories about Stillwater and what it was like to be down there on the strip with a whole bunch of music and how lively this town was, just filled with music. And for the first time in my life, last year, I got to experience that and watch it come back to life in this town the way it never has before. As I sit with you here tonight, I can't believe that I get to experience it here on stage with you guys. Thank you guys for giving a shit about music and being out here. That is some powerful stuff right there, I heard all the stories too from back in the day of Stillwater. I heard all the stories of the strip and the music, the local talent, the talent from 45 minutes away, the talent that they discovered from northern Texas that wanted to come up to Stillwater and join the Red Dirt crew, I heard those stories and I had to hear those stories from other people. I had to hear those stories from live albums that artists had recorded at the Wormy Dog. You know, those stories are just, they mean something to me, and they meant something, and they still mean something to Wyatt Flores. So to hear a young Red Dirt artist talk about how amazing the Red Dirt scene was in the 90s and early 2000s, and you know, even 2010 to 2015, to hear a local young Red Dirt musician say, these stories are true. This town was amazing with music, and I'm glad we're doing it again. I'm glad we're bringing it back and making it come alive again. Um, that was really something that I can relate with 100%. Even though I never experienced it in Stillwater, because I just never got the chance to really be there for these moments, just like Wyatt Flores, because he was 24. He's 24 now, so he was a young kid back then, you know. just to be a part of this and try to get this music scene back together in Stillwater is amazing. You know, obviously the Red Dirt scene has grown immensely throughout the years. But I think the one thing that we can all agree on is the fact that COVID really took a toll on the live music scene, especially in, you know, New York City and Atlanta, Georgia, and Kansas City. They can all, you know, for the most part, try to get back to normal, you know. But when you're, you know, in a smaller college town like Stillwater, I would compare Stillwater to, you know, Manhattan. It's not a city, you know what I mean? Um, so when COVID swept through the nation, that really damaged a lot of, you know, small businesses, a lot of concert venues, et cetera, et cetera. So you know, here we are 6 years post COVID, and we're starting to see Stillwater come back alive. Because if you know anything about Red Dirt music, you know that Red Dirt started in Stillwater. So where it all began here in Stillwater, things are really starting to come alive, and I'm so excited for it. And I just wanted to share that little bit of information about Wyatt Flores and what he said, because that really had an impact on me. It was amazing to hear that. So, you know, if you have any questions about the concert, you know, drop a comment. You know, it was, like I said, amazing. I couldn't have wanted it to go any better. It was awesome. You know, we had a couple of, we had a couple of extracurricular uh, activities going on, as far as like my wife got her wallet stolen at Target while we were there, but we recovered it. We found it. We found it a day later. Uh, so yeah, I mean, all in all, I think everybody who went this past weekend to Stillwater, I think we all had an experience, a story to tell, and that's what makes it awesome. Is, you know, these are stories to tell, and and you know, there's nothing better than storytelling. You know, just chatting about it and saying, "Oh man, let me tell you what happened here." You know, um, but yeah, great concert. And you know, we're, you know, probably 2 or 3 episodes down the road, we're gonna really dive into Charlie Robinson and what he meant to me, as a you know, musician and a storyteller. You know, um, I want to kind of give you a sneak peek preview of what I'm going to try to do next week. It depends on how much time I have next week, but we're gonna try to kind of talk about smoking some meat. You know, smoking some pork, but um, I want to try to maybe get a brisket also, and kind of do that. But we're gonna start with some pork butts, if I have enough time to squeeze in a video while I'm doing the pork butts. But anyway, this made me think of it because it's sitting here on the table. So this is by far my favorite pork rub, And if you've never tried this pork rub, I suggest you hop online and do some research and get some ordered. So it's called the Gospel All-Purpose Rub, and it is amazing, guys. Um, there's this guy down in Texas. He has his own barbecue joint, and you know does this for a living. He smokes meat and caters and makes rubs and seasonings. So his name is Meat Meat Church. Meat Church Barbecue. I'll if I remember, I'll put a link, in a comment somewhere so you can, take a look to see what he's got. But bar none, this rub is the best for pork butts, and we're going to be smoking four pork butts next week. So, like I said, if I've got time to squeeze in a video to do kind of a tutorial, we're going to do it. I'm still for the most part, kind of new in the whole smoking meat department. Um, I've always gotten the concept of it, and but to be honest with you, I never really took it seriously until here in the last year and a half, and I've learned a lot just from talking to my cousin Jake Procish, learning a lot from him. YouTube videos, watching Meat Church on YouTube, just about how long he does it, temperature wise, how much rub to put on, what type of binder to use, etc., etc. He's taught me a lot. Meat Church on YouTube, and not just about pork butts too. Briskets and barbecue ribs and stuff like that. I believe he even has some videos about a turkey. I smoked a couple turkeys for Thanksgiving, and I was super nervous about that because if you've ever ate turkey before, it sometimes can come out like really dry. So I was super nervous about that. Smoking a couple turkeys because when you smoke meat, it really dries it out. So you really have to keep moisture going and things like that. But I think it turned out great as far as the turkeys back in Thanksgiving. Me personally, I do think they turned out okay. Everybody else said it turned out great, but maybe they were just trying to make me feel good. I don't know. But anyway, I think they turned out amazing. So, I want to try to keep these episodes 20 to 25 minutes long. I think we're at about the 18-minute mark right now. But also next week, that's the NFL draft. So I may film 2 videos next week, and have one released next week and another one released the next week. But yeah, we're going to talk a lot about football here coming up, and kind of see what everybody's strategy is going to be. I hope the Detroit Lions just draft busts. Just busts. They don't work out. I hope that happens. Here you go, Cody. The Bears, same way. Packers, same way. Yeah, it probably won't happen that way. But I don't, as far as the Vikings, so I'm like a Minnesota Vikings fan, right? And I'm kind of switching gears and talking about football now. So I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan, right? And I mean, I haven't looked in a while, but as far as draft capital, we haven't really had a whole lot of money. I think we have finally freed up some cap space here in the last couple of weeks, so that we have some draft capital. We have some extra money to spend on some free agents, still. But I mean, we really haven't spent a whole lot of money in free agency this year. Um, I think the last time I checked, we only spent like 20 million so far this year in free agency, which is, if you look at it, I can't remember who's up top, but somebody was spending in upwards of $95 million. I can't remember what team it was, but they've already spent $95 million in free agency this year. So if you kind of weigh that, up here at 95, and then here's us at 20 million, we've only spent. But I think that does have a lot to do with we just don't have a whole lot of free cap space, and I know we've been working on it. So I'll dig into that, and I'll research that for when we do our football video, and get rolling on that, because we're getting close to draft day, and we're ready to rock and roll. Here pretty soon, we're going to do a baseball video and talk about some baseball. Red Sox are doing not well right now. I looked 2 days ago at the standings, and we were dead last in our division. It's still early. The year is still young. We still have a lot of baseball to play. So we'll see what happens. We've always been the team. If we've ever been good, we've always been that team that hasn't done good until end of May, 1st of June. So we'll see what happens, and we'll go from there. So, one more thing about the concert this weekend that we went to. We found out that Ragweed is making a live album, and they're compiling a bunch of their live shows that they did last year and also from this past weekend. They're going to compile songs, and they're going to release a live album. It's called Live and Loud at Boone Pickens Stadium. So excited. I can't wait. Once they say, all right, guys, we're ready to release it, I'm going to be the first person to pre-order that album. I guarantee you, I'm going to be the first one to do it. It's going to be awesome. Anyway, can't wait to see y'all for episode 3. I did a lot of rambling here for episode 2. Sorry about that. I bounced around to different subjects, but and I spent a lot of time on red dirt again. Sorry about that. But next episode, we're going to just talk about smoking some meat, and we're going to go from there. We're going to leave it all about smoking meat. And thanks for tuning in. Red Dirt Rambler, episode 2. Checking out.